think I am too. Perfect. So
All right.
you're at Ottawa U.
I am. Yeah, I'm a religion student at the University of Ottawa. Um
How
and
did you
so my
go ahead?
no, go ahead.
How did you decide to of all the various things you could take at university, that's what you wanted to do? How did you decide that?
I'm very interested in religion as a social historical phenomenon. Um I'm very interested in sort of why people do the things they do. Uh especially things that I would consider to be like, impossible or completely sort of outside my understanding of reality.
Okay.
So I'm very fascinated by it as kind of an outsider. Um,
Yes.
so that's kind of that's the sort of the sort of diplomatic answer I would give as to why I'm interested in religion.
Feeler observer. Sounds good.
Yeah.
And so you I don't know if to label yourself. Would you said in the email you that you consider yourself an agnostic.
I think agnostic. Yeah. I
Agnostic?
I don't have certain proof of anything, but some of the claims seem a little outlandish. So I
So
think
yeah, what do you mean by agnostic then?
I mean that I don't concretely know, the answers, what happens after we die, but I think it's very unlikely that any religion is correct. Uh and I think a lot of the claims they make are sort of probably contrary to reality.
Mhm.
Um but maybe I'll die and then I'll get a nasty surprise. Who knows?
Yes, yeah, that could happen. So would you say that could you uh declare or assert that a God exists? Personally, yourself, would you declare or assert that a God exists?
No.
Okay. Okay, so then the way I use terms, a person who does not or cannot or will not or for any reason does not declare that a God exists is an atheist.
Okay. Yeah, that works too. I'm not attached to the agnostic label.
Yeah.
Yeah. How would you describe yourself?
I would describe myself as as an atheist.
Nice.
But there's agnosticism and atheism are not mutually exclusive. One can be an agnostic atheist.
I see.
There are those who are agnostic atheists, though, as well. And
Would
depending
you
on what you mean by atheism, so-called hard or soft atheism, you aware of these terms, right?
I am. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So yeah, I would consider myself as an agnostic soft atheist.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat as you then. Do you think you could speak a little bit to your work
Oh,
with human
my microphone. Go ahead. Go on.
No, no problem. Do you think you could speak a little bit to your work with Humanist Ottawa? What you guys do, what your sort of mission is?
Okay, so I'm the president of Humanist Ottawa, and the mission of the organization is to be the voice of humanism in the city and promote the growth of the humanist community here in Ottawa. And yeah, so the organization has three broad buckets of things that it does, which is uh, events and activities that promote social cohesion, that is social events. Then there are learning events that promote knowledge, understanding, growth, and uh, uh, personal growth in terms of learning. And the third is advocacy. And that's what I meant by the voice of humanism, stating when necessary and when applicable, the voice of humanism and atheism in when it's necessary. I'll give you an example of that. Actually, that just recently came up yesterday, which was that a letter was just recently written to the mayor of Ottawa, um, uh, in response to his newsletter, saying that he's gone out to reach out to consult with um, religious leaders in the city regarding his proposed bubble law or bubble bylaw that mimics what was done in Vaughan, Ontario, which prevents protests to occur within a zone around mosques, synagogues, religious buildings, etc. And that consultation excluded anyone who was secular, atheist, humanist. That consultation omitted the community. So
I see.
we're going to be trying to reach out to the mayor about that.
Excellent. I hope the mayor listens.
Yeah.
Can can you speak a little bit to what humanism is to you and the organization?
Mhm. Well, humanism is a life stance. It is a philosophy of life. It is not a religion, depending on how you define religions. And it um, is a life stance philosophy which is grounded in the concepts of uh, the natural world, that we are there is a natural world, we have this natural world, and therefore things that are not in this natural world, that is to say supernatural things, there's no evidence of such a thing, and so there's no reason to believe that such things exist. uh, Science, reason, rationality, and values associated with enlightenment values. What I mean by the enlightenment values, though, is not so-called European or traditional enlightenment. What I'm talking about is enlightenment values that span much broader than that. That goes back to um, uh, references in Greek and Roman culture, in Confucianism and Asian culture. We're talking about Enlightenment values that span specific regions or cultures. It's essentially the standpoint of humanity.
Interesting. So you see it as kind of you see Enlightenment values as kind of a global phenomenon that goes all the way back to antiquity.
Right. Yeah. It
Okay.
goes. Yeah. It goes back. There's a famous quote by Christopher Hitchens, something like human decency is not does not come from religion, it precedes it.
Interesting. I think I've heard that one. That's a good one.
Yes,
Um,
exactly. There is a, I wouldn't call it bait and switch, but a kind of religion's claim, uh, the natural tendency of humans to be decent to each other as their idea or something, or requiring some kind of supernatural thing for this to occur.
yeah, I and we're social animals. It seems like the sort of natural well, a natural tendency of human beings is to cooperate, is to sort of behave decently. I don't think religion can take credit for sort of positive human behavior. And it also it seems that in many cases it can induce in humans behavior that's not sort of aligning with a
Yes,
natural sense of decency.
yes,
You know, I
exactly. There's a presumption when religion asserts that moral values come from religion, which is to say that the assumption is that in the absence of religion, people would not be moral. And actually, there's all kinds of examples uh, throughout history and societies where uh, societies, as you say, we are social animals, that social interaction could not occur without this. And so, yeah, it's the way humans are as a species, and it's quite successful for humans. and any social animal.
Absolutely. I mean, we can kind of see that principle in our sort of like primate relatives, right? Who
Yes. Yeah.
kind of operate in a
Yes. And in fact, you can see there are many examples you can see, even on YouTube or whatnot, of animals expressing a moral, doing something out of care and empathy for another, right? There was the famous example of the gorilla in the zoo. Maybe you know this one, where a child was fell into the pen, and
Mhm.
the gorilla took the child to the door where the zookeepers come in, brought the child there so that the zookeepers can retrieve it.
Yes, I think I do remember that. That was amazing and very human looking. Like,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, yes. And the mother was freaking out, and the gorilla could see that the mother was freaking out.
Mhm.
And yeah, so there's many other examples of moral behavior in animals.
Um, so I wanted to ask you, before we get into the mortality stuff, I wanted to
Yeah.
ask you a little bit about your view of human development with respect to religion. Do you think that religion has served a purpose, bringing us to where we are now, and now like has served its purpose, or do you consider it a sort of harmful force on human development, like historically speaking?
Well, I think that in the beginning, let's say, um, it, be, as societies and civilizations developed, I think religion was our early attempts at understanding the world. And so, just as you know, um, astrology became astronomy, and yeah, it was a kind of a proto version, the answer to everything, and then science emerged as a better answer. So I think that it has a function. It's now its multi-purpose function in the past is now dwindled down to this small sliver of things related to um, uh, morality. But even then, it is somewhat redundant, and so I think that we have outgrown it. It was more useful before. It still has some usefulness now, uh, and that is for the foreseeable future will have practical applications. Uh, but I'd make the point that just because something is useful does not mean it's true.
Yeah. So do you think as it sort of shrinks in utility, we'll sort of just see a natural sort of discarding of religious practice?
Well, I think that people have well, they get them while they're young. People get indoctrinated quite early, and they don't seem to. I guess people do sometimes come to realize that there are alternatives. There are more rational alternatives. There are more um, enduring alternatives to religion, which have more of the benefits and fewer of the negative side effects, right?
Hmm.
Now, of course, the religious will point to things like, oh, Hitler and Pol Pot and all kinds of stuff, and oh, they were all racist. Actually, Hitler was a Catholic. So yeah, there's like people they try and protect the idea and concept of it. It's an ideology as well,
Hmm.
right?
And there was also like there was a Nazi aligned like German Lutheran church that was like completely affiliated with the Nazi state. I've never
Yes,
understood why people try to pass him off as an atheist.
yes, what's it's a on the belt buckles of all the Nazi German soldiers was Gott mit uns, which is God is with us.
Yeah.
It's
But I do kind of understand the instinct to want to like pass Hitler off to the other side, but I don't think
Yeah,
it works in that case.
yeah, exactly. So there is that. The other element of it, which is people don't seem to necessarily realize that there's a whole concept of belief in belief. That
Hmm.
is, you got to believe in something, preferably something supernatural. And I think the answer is no. You know why? Why you got to believe in something supernatural?
Yeah,
There's
that was the like after sort of like Carl Jung really popularized that idea with like the sort of like, oh, you have to make a personal mythology, and then it seems like that had kind of a damaging effect on people
yeah,
who now
yeah,
feel like they need to mythologize everything.
yeah. Well, I mean, stories. People can learn lessons from stories, even if they're not true. You know,
Hmm.
Aesop's fables and things. You know, all fairy tales with magical characters and creatures and beings all have some kind of moral to the story. That's why they're children's stories. So stories can be useful without being true and can teach practical lessons.
Hmm. Um, so I wanted to move a little bit to talking about death, which is the uh, heady
You're
stuff, but it is kind of the thrust of our interview.
yes.
Um, do you feel that we live in a death-averse society? People are broadly uncomfortable with confronting their own mortality.
Well, yes, I think the death and fear of death is the engine in the car for religion. People ascribe to all kinds of different religions based in fear of death, right? And or denial of death in the form of afterlife. Afterlife, the positing the existence of the afterlife is denial of death, right? That we survive our deaths, and it's like it's denialism taken to a kind of institutional form.
Do you consider belief in the afterlife or reincarnation or what have you like a form of wish fulfillment a little bit then?
It's a comforting thought,
Mhm.
and really not much more than that. In fact, that's the whole point of it. Is that is a thought that which is comforting, but all kinds of
I'm
other thoughts can be comforting as well.
I'm glad you brought
What
up
go on.
I'm glad you brought up comforting thoughts because that segues nicely into my next question, which was what do you think how should one live in the face of their own mortality without the comfort of religion?
Well, first and foremost, that you proceed from the fundamental evident reality that the life you have is the only one you know for sure you have. Based on that, the value of life is precious, even more precious than those who believe that this is merely a dress rehearsal for something better later, right? You, it gives it imbues in your life an incredible value and it's very important what you do with the time you have, and knowing that it's finite makes it even more valuable.
Absolutely.
So that's very comforting, actually, don't you think?
I absolutely agree. Um, so in light of, we only get one life, which makes it all the more precious. Uh, and there might not be one answer to this, but what would you consider to be a life well lived?
A life well lived. Oh, geez, I would need to know what well lived means. Well lived,
Well, I left it open ended on purpose.
right? Well lived. I can imagine somebody, for example, who we all have to play the cards we're dealt, and someone who is as a paraplegic, for example, can they lead a life well lived, right? You see, so one it's not a question of what you enjoy, what you experience, um, uh, who you interact with. It has to do with all kinds of different ways in which you can think about what constitutes well lived,
Mhm.
right?
But do you
So
think there are kind of maybe certain dispositions or states of mind that might constitute well lived for all people? Like, maybe, I don't know, be nice to your neighbor, those
be nice
sorts
to your
of,
neighbor. Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, the concept of the golden rule has been reinvented in every religion.
yeah.
And so when you are express and reify the concepts related to altruism, empathy, compassion with others, if a person does that in their interactions with others or how they take care of themselves, is that well lived? Well, yeah, there you could see it that way. Yeah.
So the good life then has more to do with our relationships with other people, would you say?
I would say from a humanist perspective, other sentient beings.
Other sentient beings. Okay. Um, so if you wouldn't mind answering a personal question, do you ever contemplate your own sort of mortality?
Contemplate. Well, it's a fact, right?
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it's a fact. Like, the sun will rise in the east and set in the west. It's a fact. Contemplating that, well, I mean, one can contemplate it, right? Um, people think, oh, well, what will happen after I die? And the atheist position, well, is what happens after you die is everything that's happening now, only you're not there.
So it doesn't bother you much then. It's
Well,
just a sort of neutral fact.
I'll ask you in terms of for the agnostic position of not knowing. Okay, it's an unanswered question. Does not knowing invoke fear, anxiety? I don't know. Oh, gee, I don't. I don't know what it's like on the far side of Pluto. I don't know that. Well, does that give me? There's an example of something unknown. Am I? Should I make decisions for my life and how I interact with others on the basis of things that I don't know? Right?
I
We
like that.
act based
Yeah.
on the reality that we're presented with, right?
Hmm.
So it's far better to contemplate things that are reality based as opposed to hypothetical. You know, you can imagine all kinds of quote unquote facts or imaginary things, and sometimes it's quite entertaining. I can watch the Harry Potter movies. And it's wonderfully entertaining, right? Uh, but the question of you know it's it's it is its own world. I remember once asking a friend, uh, "Can Harry Potter cast spells?" And the answer is, well, Harry Potter's an imaginary character, so there is no Harry Potter and there is no spells.
Yeah.
That's reality based.
Yeah. Interesting. Um, so that's all I have for you, but
Okay, well, go ahead.
did you have a final note that you wanted to leave things on or something
Well,
you wanted to say that I didn't ask?
yeah. Well, I'll mention that in terms of the um, growing the uh, humanist atheist community in Ottawa involves activities. We're not just a group of individuals, where there's a whole community out there to interact with, where we have events, activities, various things. And one of the things that's coming up this uh, on the 13th of December is our winter solstice party. And see if I can I share this with you? Where's this thing here? Share. Where'd it go? Oh, uh, just a minute. Share. Oh, I'm sharing the wrong screen. Share this one. This one. This one. Yeah. Can you see this guy?
I can.
Yeah. We're having a winter solstice party. That's in it's on the Bridge Public House, which is just across the river. Are you in? You're not University of Ottawa. You're downtown because you can just walk there.
I live in Dunrobin, but I work in I work and go to school downtown, so I'm there all the time.
Oh, okay. So, yes, just across the Rideau River is the Bridge Public House in the Rideau Sports Center.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, I know where that is.
Yes, and I was when you were um, sent in your request for information about humanism. A member of our communities has said, you know, if Sam is interested, they would pay for your ticket and dinner for yourself and one other person to attend the winter solstice party.
Oh my goodness, that'd be amazing. Thank you.
So if you want to do
So
that, we could do that.
yeah, I would love to.
Okay, so I'll get our coordinator to reach out to you, and
Perfect.
we'll set up. You can show up at 5:45, and there'll be admission there, and there's it's kind of a social thing, you know, like it's kind of like a solstice party. You know, we'll have dinner and stuff. I think there'll be a presentation of some kind about something, and
Nice.
yeah, it's kind of a you meet other atheists, agnostics, humanists in the area. Yeah, and you can
That
let
sounds
us know
really
if
nice. Thank you.
yeah
Yeah, I'd love
let
to.
us know if there's going to be one or two people, and we can we have to set the restaurant wants to know how many for the food they want to know how many people are going to show up. So
Yeah, I'll
yeah,
have your if your coordinator reaches out. You guys have my email?
I think yeah we do.
Yeah, perfect. All right. Awesome. Thank you very much.
Okay, for one or two.
For two.
Okay,
I'll bring my girlfriend.
okay. Share, stop share. Come on, stop share. Stop. You're screen sharing. Stop share. There you go.
You got it. There you go.
Yeah. So that's one of the things I wanted to say. There are yeah, there's just so much going on in terms of science, reason, evidence. Having discussions with how atheists and agnostics interact with the religious can often be or sometimes be contentious or difficult to have those conversations. And so there are ways to engage with others who are theists in a way which is compassionate and respectful, but doesn't necessarily you don't have to agree with somebody to have a productive conversation with them on why they believe what they believe.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Well,
yeah. So and so have you are you aware of other any other atheists or agnostics in at University of Ottawa?
at University of Ottawa, um, I'm not really just because I transferred there recently and I don't know very many people yet.
Okay.
Um, so I don't really know anyone there on the level of discussing our religious beliefs or that or lack thereof.
Okay.
But if I
What?
meet any, I'll send them your way
Okay.
and tell them about Humanist Ottawa.
Yeah. I you transferred from to University of Ottawa from where?
U of T.
Oh, wow. Okay. So this can be a
Yeah.
big cultural difference.
I grew up here and then I was in Toronto, but I don't know. I'm something of a country boy at heart, and the noise. and crowds of Toronto just got to me. So
Yeah,
I had to get out. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
one of our board members lives in Embrun, Ontario, and we have there's the scope for Humanist Ottawa is quite broad. They have people from all over, and
Mhm.
it's quite interesting, lots of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for your time. I really, really do appreciate it.
Okay. And
Um,
our coordinator will reach out to you. But if you have my email address,
I do, yeah.
okay. So let's keep in touch.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm the scope of your course is quite interesting in terms of its theistic orientation.
It is. It's I guess that's kind of how it is in religion departments. But yeah, I wasn't happy with the way that sort of like secularism or humanism was just kind of like a footnote briefly discussed, where it's like here's all these religious traditions and then oh, some people don't believe that. I think I think the humanist tradition deserves more screen time, I guess.
Yes, yeah. I think that um they see secularism, humanism, atheism as a problem,
Hmm.
right? And of course, to see other worldviews or philosophies of life as a problem is where religion becomes dysfunctional because it
Absolutely.
is a source of division and divide across, and it's quite corrosive. Um, I'll just mention briefly, I was at the Humanist International's General Assembly in Singapore earlier this year, where social cohesion and interfaith dialogue was a theme. And in Singapore society, the potential of violence is quite palpable because of the very high um, uh, interaction between Hindus and Muslims.
I see. Yeah.
And so it's a bit of a powder keg. So there's a lot of uh, laws in place to keep this under control, and they have
Hmm.
departments of religious harmony, for example, a governmental, a federal department of religious harmony. It's quite interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah. So it needs to be. It's quite telling that such it shows why some of the dangers of religion.
And it kind of shows how religion has maybe strayed from the purpose it once served, where
Yes.
it started out as our first sort of mechanism of social cohesion, and now is kind of like damaging the bonds of society a little bit.
Hmm. I remember once seeing this advertisement for a 3-day conference I think it was based in Saudi Arabia. It was like why God exists was the purpose of the conference, and it was a 3-day conference with keynote speakers and workshops and all kinds of things and whatever. And it's like, wow, that's very interesting. And for a 4-day, 3 or 4 day intensive conference about this. If God actually existed, such a conference wouldn't really be necessary, would it?
No. And you can kind of guess what they're gonna say, which is a lot of it's in this old book that I read.
Yes, yes.
uh,
It's kind of like intrinsically true and things.
yeah,
The other thing is it really religion presupposes that people are naturally bad people and have no
absolutely.
and that the religion is needed for them to be good. And so the concept of being good without God is a very foreign concept to them.
And it's kind of I don't know, it's kind of disturbing the idea that many religious people hold that sort of without these guidelines they would just run completely amok.
Right. Yes. So does if which is better, a person who helps another because out of care and compassion for them, or a person that helps another because they fear of the consequences in the afterlife if they don't.
Yeah,
Right? It's that's really not a very good motivation to do so out of an instruction and fear, as opposed to, you know, looking at the intrinsic humanity and helping others on that basis.
I absolutely agree.
Okay, so
I won't take up any more of your time. Thank you
yeah,
so much. Um,
okay,
safe travels.
yes, and we'll be in touch on the solstice party. Well, I'd love to see you there.
Absolutely. All right. Take care.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Robert.
Bye
Cheers.
bye now.